Hi, everyone. Welcome to the workathomefamily.com. I'm Rachel, and we have Autumn here today joining us from wellnessinEverySeason.com. Autumn, you do some really interesting things to help moms. Do you want to introduce yourself and kind of let us know a little bit about what you do to help moms transition back into the workforce?
Sure. So I pilot tested that program and realized I needed a program before it. So I help out moms in general, and we are the ones that put ourselves on the back burner. We're helping our significant other with their career, we're helping our kids with their education, and we kind of just by the wayside. And I noticed moms, when they wanted to go back to work, they did not know what they wanted to do. They did not enjoy what they did before they had kids. So they just were kind of lost. So some moms just go throughout all the way up until retirement years, not knowing what they want to do, so they don't really do anything. Or they are wanting to fit in to a job that's super flexible. So some of them go back and work at the school system so that they have the exact hours that their children have. But they found they aren't being paid enough and they're overworked. So they burn out. So I pilot tested my stay at home mom to dream job mom program. And I realized that moms were not setting aside the time so that they could work. They did not have the mental bandwidth for work. They were trying to basically have school system schedule while not working at a school. Their significant other wanted them to make money, but they weren't giving them the space to hold a job. They were still the default parent at home. So I developed another program that's basically a prerequisite to stay-at-home mom dream job mom, and this one is just about reclaiming your time. It's about there's decluttering everything in your life, not just the things, the tangible things. There's emails, there's so many things that clutter up our lives. We talk about delegation within the family, such as delegating chores. Everybody should be doing chores in the house. You're not the maid. You're not the only chauffeur. Talk about meal planning, just all the different ways that you can reclaim your time, block scheduling, and this allows you at the end to be able to have a hobby, or if you want to go back to the workforce, or just have time for self-care. Have time to read a book, put up your feet.
I love that so much.
So
The questions we get so often is people want jobs, but they're like, but I don't have any time to do it. And I need to do it with my kids there. And I don't have any time to go get training. So they just want to fit a job into no time and no space at all. And it's hard to do. If you're going to work, you have to, especially as an employee. Nobody wants to hire you as an employee if you have kids running around and you're sidetracked. You're trying to keep track of kids and work. It's just too hard mentally to do that anyway. And employers are not going to go for that. So we get that all the time.
social media is exploding with moms who want flexible jobs where they can have their kids underfoot. Growing up, my dad did that, owning his own business, and I was neglected, ignored. We would go all day long without me eating because he'd forget about me. So we don't want to do that to our children. I just see a whole generation of people with some of the trauma that I had.
I think that leads moms and falling into a lot of scams too, because I've seen it. You've probably seen it too. There's all these people on social media that claim you're going to make $10,000 a month on your phone with your kids there with no training and all this stuff. And most of the time they're selling a course. So you're like, maybe they'll give me some tips, but this is not a get rich quick scheme here. They want you to think it's easy, and there's really no easy solution.
No, and you're not going to have a job that pays well and that allows you to have your kids home and making noise. Is very rare that you will be able to find that.
Yeah, and the ones that I've seen, it's people running their own business because then they're in charge. And I've been able to do that. Blogging has let me do that, and blogging's definitely changed since when I started. So I don't see very many people jumping in now and being able to do that. But there's a few little unicorn jobs out there. We talk about that in another video actually because we get that a lot. But yeah, for the most part, you've got to be willing to take that space and have the mental space and the time and everything to do that job well. And that's hard to find sometimes.
And I think moms are so looking for something where they can be a stay-at-home mom and a full-time employee and still have the bandwidth to be this super mom, and you're not going to be able to be. You're gonna burn out. Society tries to tell us that we can do all the things.
Oh, absolutely. I've tried to do both sides of that before, and I have been so much happier. For a long time, I tried to get away without childcare at all because I wanted my kids home. And I finally, I went through a series of college students over the years, and I was so much more relaxed just having somebody in my home, knowing my kids were being watched. It was a really good balancing act. I know people do nannies and different options. You can't be two things at the same time. I know a lot of us try to be, we're kind of programmed to be everything all at once, but you just can't do it all long term like that.
Over the summer, I did the same thing. I had a babysitter that came 2 days a week, and it was amazing. That's when I built out one of my programs.
Yeah, you need that space to think, really. This is a little bit older book, but I've been reading Deep Work, and it's talking about you can't switch between all of this shallow work and deep work. And I think whereas moms were used to just multitasking so much, but you never get very far into what you're wanting to do, especially if you're wanting to create something or work a job, you're just not going to have that focus that you need.
Right.
You work a lot with people who have gaps in their resumes.
Yes.
What steps do you recommend they take if somebody has a big gap in their resume before they jump into the job hunt? What would you recommend that they do?
Look at what your passions are. You are going to be taking out some of your hobby time because you're going to be a mom and an employee or owning your own business. So you really need to take the time to discover what things light me up. What things would I want to give up some of my family time for and be paid for? Because, hey, why not? So, yeah, start with what your passions are. You are doing unpaid work as a stay at home mom. You are not doing no work. Trust me, you're exhausted at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day for a reason. Really list out the things that you do and how you can put them into a language that would be written on a resume.
I've worked with a lot of moms about skills-based resumes versus like linear resumes. Do you typically tell
Yes.
moms with a gap on their resume to go for a skills-based resume?
And I am working with somebody right now who's actually male, and he has gaps in his resume due to unemployment. And I showed him this when it was just a huge light bulb moment. It was so fun to watch him light up. And this is something that was taught to me when I was in college, taking a course for get going back into the workforce. And he talks about doing it that way because there's so many things that are redundant on your resume. I love that way.
I know one of the real problems when you have a gap on your resume is talking with employers and explaining that gap. How do you recommend addressing the employment gap when you're talking with an employer?
I think the first step is to acknowledge that you were doing amazing work. So don't talk yourself down. It's most of it is how you're showing up, right? So it starts here. You really need to take time to realize how much you've given to your family and show that you can take those skills that you learned, especially the multitasking skill, and show how you can bring that into the workforce. And if you are interviewing for somewhere where you're passionate, it's going to show. Your passion's going to show. So step out of your way and let your passion step forward.
I love that. That's fantastic. Now, there's definitely some stereotype and biases when you are interviewing after an employment gap. I don't even have a gap on my resume, but I have 6 kids and I have a blog that makes it clear that I have 6 kids. And I have actually had people turn me down because they don't tell me it's because of my kids. They tell me it's because I have a lot going on. And so, how do you recommend moms deal with that bias when they are trying to get a job and jump back into the workforce?
I think taking the time to realize that there are so many employees that are fluffing their time at work, they're chit chatting, whatever. As moms, we don't have time for that. We can get more work done in less time than those who don't have children. So show up that way and make that very well known that you know how to get work done. You know how to have very good time management because you've been doing it for years. You know how to multitask. You know how to follow through on things and follow up on other people. Just show those things. Explain to them that you have talked to your significant other and you are not the go to parent every time your child is sick. And make sure that that actually is true in your family, that you have a village there to help.
Now, do you have any strategies for the job hunt? I know a lot of moms are out of practice. It's a little bit intimidating when you jump in there and you start a fresh job hunt after being out for so long. What strategies do you recommend people use?
LinkedIn is the powerhouse today. So today in 2024, everything can change, right? In a blink of an eye. But today, that is where you start. Your resume needs to be up there. They have where it says open to network. Put that in your profile picture. Make sure your profile picture is up to date. This will help recruiters find you. So you're not the only one searching. People are searching you as well. Everything in life as a mom is about thinking smarter, harder, and thinking about ways of making your time work for you, right? So LinkedIn is the one place you want to start. And then make sure that your cover letter is tailored to jobs.
Great. I think so many moms forget about LinkedIn too, but that's a great resource. If you've been out of the workforce, it's not the first place you think of, but it's fantastic. It's a great place to start.
That's the place you start. And there are tutorials. If you're lost, start there.
Definitely. You've been doing this for a little while. Do you have some success stories that you like to share of moms that you helped to get back into a career?
It was really fun working with one, helping her to start her own business, realizing that that lit her up and that she could include her family in it. and not in the flexible job, which that we were talking about earlier. There was creativity that was there that she was missing. So it helped her to bring that in. I've had others who realized that where they were applying did not match their passions. And she was able to bring that together and find her dream job close to home. That doesn't always happen, right? So that was really exciting.
It's always fun to watch somebody make that transition and come out better on the other side. It's life changing when you have something you enjoy doing every day and you're not just stuck going to work because it's what you have to do, but you actually want to go to work. I mean, it's a complete game changer.
Yes, it's frustrating in the passionate way for me when moms are just applying to whatever they think will fit with the schedule or they're just willing to take whatever. And the thing is that shows. They will pay you less. You might not be their first, second, third choice. It shows up in how you're presenting yourself.
Now, you talked a little bit about having a village. How important do you think it is for moms who are returning to work to have a support system or professional network that they're using?
I think it's important for every mom. It's even more so when you are trying to go back to work and you need to figure out who the emergency contacts are going to be for your children. And if you have to go out of town for training, if anything happens, you need to have that village. I know a mom who is a recent single mom, and there are people around her that know her children but have not really met her. Is that crazy to think about? But she has these people to lean on, which is important because she travels almost an hour for work right now, and she has 6 kids, so
That's important. You need to make sure you can't focus on work if you don't think your kids are being taken care of either. So having that support, I think, is huge.
and we've all been there where we're supposed to be doing something else, but worried about that one child, and you're not with them. Think about what that's like if you're going every single day to work.
So it's really stressful. I know I've worked with a lot of moms who are really, really concerned. They need the income, so they get into this place of desperation and they get really stressed about jumping back into the workforce because they're doing it out of need and not necessarily it's something that they want to do. It's super stressful when you jump back into the workforce, especially after having a gap. So what advice would you give to somebody who is really nervous about the process?
Taking time to center yourself, because if you are coming from the fight and flight mode, then you're not thinking clearly, and that will show up in everything in your life. So, taking the time to feel centered so that you're in your higher thinking and you will act that way is really the most important. I'm coming from a total coach mindset here. Otherwise, you're going to end up working at a job that's graveyard shifts when you want to work during the day, or vice versa. And you're going to end up with terrible pay, terrible boss, and coworkers. If you are really coming from a place of feeling centered, even if you're feeling desperate still, which totally makes sense. I grew up in that mindset and that mentality. We grew up very poor. You will end up getting further up the rung if you are feeling secure in yourself and knowing that your needs will be met.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And I think one thing so many moms forget too is they look at these lower level jobs because they think it gives them flexibility, but you actually have so much more flexibility the higher up you are on that ladder because you have some responsibility for managing things and have control. And you don't have that when you're working the graveyard shift or doing whatever it is. You're just at the bottom of the ladder. And so even if that means giving up some time or having some childcare, but having that flexibility because you've worked to that point is so important, I think.
My dad always told me, 'cause being a business owner, is that the ball rolls downhill. So it's all gonna end up on the lowest person in the ladder, the pyramid, however you wanna think about it, of your place of employment. You don't wanna be at the bottom.
Yeah, those are the people that don't have the flexibility. And that's you have to start somewhere. So a lot of people have to start there and that's fine. But I would say make it your goal to get higher up so that you have that flexibility in a different way than it might have looked like in your head when you started.
Right, and if you really need a job, sure, you can get the first one, but make sure that you have enough flexibility, that you're not overwhelmed enough, that you can look for the right job. Because we've all been there where we just need a job now while we're looking for the next one.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Autumn. I think this is super important information for so many moms. I know we hear it all the time. This is one of the most common concerns that we have is moms who've been out of the workforce and they want to get back in, they need to get back in, but they don't really know where to start. Let us know, how would somebody work with you? So you have your podcast, you have your courses. What would be the first step somebody would take if they were interested in working with you?
My website is wellnessinEverySeason.com. That is the best place to learn about me. I have group coaching for moms. I have one-on-one coaching. I have the Reclaim Your Time program. I have Stay at Home Mom to Dream Job Mom, and I also have a mentorship for brand new coaches.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. This is such important information for so many moms. Be sure and join us at theworkathomefamily.com. We also have some extra resources, including Autumn's website, for you in the comments below the video. And be sure and like, subscribe, and share this video. Thanks so much for being here.